There's a kind of regret that doesn't hit all at once. It sneaks up on you slowly. You look back at your 30s and realize you weren't irresponsible. You weren't reckless. You were doing what everyone around you was doing. And that's exactly the problem. My 30s should have been my strongest wealth building decade. I was earning more than I ever had before. Compound interest was still on my side. And I had enough life experience to avoid obvious mistakes. But instead, I made a series of reasonable decisions that quietly cost me years of progress. Not thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. In this video, I want to walk through the biggest financial mistakes I made in my 30s, what they actually cost me long term, and what I wish I had done instead. If you're in your 30s right now, this could save you years. And if you're past them, this might help you course correct faster than I did. 1. Not eliminating high interest debt aggressively. The first mistake seems obvious in hindsight, but at the time it felt manageable. I carried about $12,000 in credit card debt at nearly 19% interest. Every month, I paid around $190, just in interest, not principal, not progress, just the cost of carrying the balance. Over 5 years, that added up to $11,000 in interest alone. And that doesn't even include my student loans. I had roughly $45,000 in student debt, and instead of attacking it aggressively, I stretched payments out. Minimums felt safe, flexible, comfortable, but comfort is expensive. Between student loans, credit cards, and lifestyle debt from furniture and vacations, I paid over $30,000 in interest. Money that could have been invested. Money that could have compounded into over $80,000. What hurts more than the interest is what the debt blocked. Because of it, I couldn't max out retirement accounts during my highest earning years. What I should have done was treat high interest debt like an emergency. No lifestyle upgrades. No, I'll deal with it later. I should have remained focused at paying off the high interest debt that was silently weighing down on my financial freedom. 2. Making a housing decision based on status. Housing was the next mistake, and this one was sneaky. At 32, I bought a $410,000 house, nearly the maximum I was approved for. On paper, it worked. In reality, it strangled my flexibility. My monthly payment took up 38% of my gross income, well above the recommended threshold. I was technically a homeowner, but functionally house poor. To make matters worse, I only put 8% down, which meant private mortgage insurance, also known as PMI, a higher interest rate, and tens of thousands more in interest over time, all because I didn't want to wait. And if I'm being honest, part of the decision wasn't financial, and that was the problem. I made the decision based on the status I thought I would get, the neighborhood, the finishes, the idea of this is what success looks like. That decision locked me in place. I turned down a job opportunity that would have increased my income by 30% because it required relocating. What I should have done was buy less house than I qualified for. A cheaper home with 20% down would have freed up hundreds of dollars every month and kept options open. The important lesson here is housing should support your life, not limit it. 3. Overextending on cars. Cars were one of my most expensive blind spots. At 29, I financed a $35,000 new car. 4 years later, I owed more than it was worth. So I did what a lot of people do. I rolled the negative equity into another loan. And just like that, I was trapped in a cycle. Over time, I lost tens of thousands in depreciation, nearly $20,000 in interest, and countless opportunities to invest instead, all for something that got me from point A to point B. Cars felt like rewards, like progress, but they were liabilities pretending to be achievements. If I had bought a modest used car and invested the difference, I'd be tens of thousands ahead today. Transportation doesn't need to impress anyone. 4. Neglecting income growth and skill development. This one hurts the most. I spent years obsessing over cutting expenses, while ignoring the most powerful lever I had, income. There were certifications I avoided because they felt expensive or unnecessary. One certification alone could have increased my income by $20,000 per year. I delayed it for years. That delay cost me 6 figures in lost earnings and investment growth. I also avoided negotiating. I accepted raises without questioning them, even when market rates had moved faster. That quiet hesitation compounded year after year. The lesson here is simple but uncomfortable. Saving matters, but income growth multiplies everything. And the earlier you invest in your earning power, the bigger the payoff. 5. Making emotional career moves without a safety net. At 35, I quit a job without enough savings. I had about 3 months of expenses set aside. I told myself I'd figure it out quickly. It took 7 months. That gap drained my savings, forced me into debt, and pushed me into a lower paying role out of necessity. The emotional stress alone was brutal. What I learned is this: career freedom isn't just about confidence, it's about preparation. An emergency fund isn't pessimism, it's leverage. With more savings, I could have waited for the right opportunity instead of taking the first one available. What my 30s taught me. Looking back, the pattern is clear. The biggest mistakes weren't dramatic, they were gradual. Debt that lingered, lifestyle upgrades that felt deserved, decisions made for comfort instead of leverage. What I do differently now? I treat high interest debt like a crisis. I buy homes and cars for function, not status. I invest consistently in skills. I negotiate compensation with data. And I keep enough savings to protect my options. Every dollar you commit to debt or status is a dollar that can't compound. And over decades, that cost is massive. I encourage you now to pause the video and reflect on the table above. Think carefully about where you might be making similar mistakes and where you are smarter than I was. Comment below on what you think you can improve on. I guarantee you that the action of even verbalizing it in the comments will help you remember it. My personal message to you: if you're in your 30s right now, hear this clearly. You still have time, but only if you act intentionally. Buy less house than you qualify for. Drive less car than you can afford. Eliminate high interest debt fast. And invest in skills that raise your income ceiling. And if you're past your 30s, don't dwell on regret. The best time to start was years ago. The second best time is today. Your future self doesn't need perfection. They need a different direction. If this resonated, share your experience in the comments. What financial decision from your 30s do you wish you'd handled differently?